Alright, basic, good morning, and today we're out on a little sunroom addition that we're doing. The project behind me, these people had a screened in room that they of course are only able to use a few times out of the year due to being too hot or too cold. So they decided they wanted to close it in. And what we're doing this morning is some insulation work, and I'm pretty excited about this. This is a company, we're gonna meet with them and talk to them here in just a second. When they come out, they're in the process of actually doing the foaming right now. But we're spray foaming this room, and just to be able to give them this space where they can utilize it as much of the year as they possibly can. And this is gonna be kind of the start to a little series we'll have on energy efficiency, talking about insulation and HVAC systems, to really give you the knowledge that you need to make the choices and selections that you need in your new home or addition or remodel. So let's talk to Drew.
I would leave bring the floor plastic down, and when you're shredding, do not hit that towel.
All right, so hey,
awesome.
We are here with Drew Collison.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And Drew, it's Insulation Solutions, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so Drew and I have been talking for several months now about trying to get hooked up on some projects. And today he's doing this little sunroom that we talked about. And we're just going to talk a little bit about what you do and your product and what you do. And we're going to just start right here in this trailer.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's really cool. The guys have told me that this thing is heated and cooled, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got a heat pump right here. We also have a heater in the front of the trailer that we run too. We have barrel blankets for each side. We have an A side, which is our ISO side, we run barrel blankets on, and our B side, this is our catalyst, so we run our second barrel blanket on.
And that's, you're just trying to keep that product at a constant temperature, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this machine behind you, it has a Delta T on it. So if I'm trying to spray,
which is this guy here, right?
Yes, sir. This is our reactor. This is what makes all the magic happen. But if we're trying to spray a certain temperature, you have to keep your chemical coming into the machine at a certain temperature just to maintain that temperature here. Okay. So generally, open cell, we like to keep it about 80, maybe a little bit more than 80 degrees, 85. And then that allows the reactor not to work so hard, and it makes better foaming processes better. So, yes, sir, that's our goal there.
All right, and so this basically, when we're talking about this foam product, it's almost like a two-part epoxy that you've got the two different pieces that come together and actually make the product. One by itself is utterly useless, right?
Right, yes, yeah. So, I mean, they start out as, like you said, two separate units, and these pumps are pushing it into this reactor, which in turn pushes it. It runs by the heaters, and it pushes it through your hose. We have about 250 foot of hose, and it actually doesn't mix until it reaches right in here to your mixing chamber. And then
you still have to have the right ratios coming from the pump, or is the ratio all controlled at the gun?
So the ratio is controlled in a lot of different places. You can have a you can have a gun issue that's throwing your ratio off. You can have cold foam that's throwing your ratio off. So, that's a whole different ballgame as far as troubleshooting.
So how do we know, this is something you and I talked about a few weeks back, how do we know that we're actually getting the right product in the wall or on the roof deck? So,
if you're a really experienced sprayer, a lot of times you can see it in your foam. What we like to do, we like to cut the foam out. So if I'm spraying a cavity, I'll spray for 15-20 minutes, and about maybe every 30, once I get it really going, about every 30 minutes I'll start cutting cavities out. And then you can kind of tell in the cell structure of your foam, if you have a bad ratio, a lot of times you'll have maybe like, I'm trying to think what the word is, like dusting. So like if you have one side rich, you'll have dusting. If the other side's rich, you might have a rubbery feel of foam. You can also, if you look in the side
Now, why, Drew, are you trying to check that every 30 minutes?
Oh, that's very, very crucial. I mean, if I check every 30 minutes, it gives me a clean point. So, say a problem occurs, halfway through the day, I know I just did a check 30 minutes ago. So I know I can track my problem back to this point right here, and I don't have to tear the whole house out.
Okay, but why is it changing? Is it relative to like heat and humidity and the actual outside conditions?
Oh, absolutely. As your house heats up, so your roof deck will accumulate heat, from the sun. We start pretty early. So when we start, we got to have our heats really high to accommodate for the lower substrate temperature. So as the day goes on and the sun heats it up, you have to back those temperatures down. And a lot of times you can tell when you're spraying a wall, and this is what we're dealing with right now because it's summer. But a lot of times, you'll have pulling or shrinkage on the sides of your studs. So your studs, where the foam butts into. If I'm spraying, I do a first and second pass. So if I'm spraying 5 to 8 cavities, I'll come back to my first pass. If I find that it's shrinking, I'll tell the guys, hey, bump me down 2. So I like to go down 1 or 2 every time.
You're seeing it pull away from the stud is what you're talking about?
Yes, sir. Right at the stud.
The gap start opening up there.
And you asked about the ratio too, something I didn't touch on because I don't like to rely all on equipment. But we also have a ratio monitoring system, which is on the newer reactors, or the newer systems. But it'll actually, it's like a smart rig. So it's connected to your phone. And if you go off ratio, it'll shut the whole unit down. So it won't even allow you to spray off ratio.
Gotcha.
And that's
the guys that are cleaning up inside right now. They said that you guys actually have 2 of these trailers. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Our other one is it's an older rig, so we're in maintenance right now on that. But this
and ultimately that's just going to be a backup, or are you trying to get to the point where you're running 2 rigs?
Right now, I feel like we're at a point where we're running 2 rigs, but. Yeah, I would like to. We're trying to build right now. We're still a fairly new company.
Gotcha.
So about 3 or 4 years in business right now. So I'm trying to, really learn the safety, learn the foam as much as I can before I try to teach another crew to do the same thing.
Right.
So that's kind of our goal right now. And this rig, this rig is the catalyst. Like I see
it's Graco. So this is actually the same people that make a lot of the paint spray equipment and everything.
Yeah. So Graco makes it's a large, range of things that they make. But yeah, this reactor.
I'm just familiar. Most of the painters that we've ever dealt with have had Graco spray rigs.
Yeah, they've always treated me good. I've had this rig for about probably 6 to 8 months now, maybe longer than that. I've not had a single issue with it. Nothing. Cool. And the old rig, there's a lot of issues with it, but it's just an old reactor. So, but the biggest thing on this is it maintains temperatures a lot easier than my old rig because it's smaller. So it's a lot easier for me to show up at the job so I can get started earlier than it was with the other rig. It may have took me about an hour and a half to get going with it, whereas this one you're up in 30 minutes. But awesome. The biggest thing is the safety, the safety features behind this thing. So it's not relying all on your density checks, which we do density checks too, but we also have a fallback too with the reactor. So.
Hey, Drew, so we're going to talk about these. What do you call these?
So these are just density checks that we've done. Basically, you'll spray it all in one pass, and you'll cut a cavity out. You'll go through, you'll run it on your gram scale and kind of do like a conversion there.
So you're literally weighing that, because what you're trying to do is come up with that this is open cell versus closed cell.
Correct.
And you know how much that cylinder that size should weigh. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So after you do your formula or your calculation, it should tell you as far as how many it'll convert it into like pounded, how many pounds you've got in your hand. So, or I guess how many pounds it converts to. So on open cell, you have a ½ pound foam. So if you're a little bit over there, a little bit under that, it'll affect your yield or the makeup of the foam. If you're off by just a hair, it generally doesn't mean a whole lot. But that's what you want to be as close to that 0.5 as you can. And like this one you're holding in your hand is actually a 0.52. Yeah. Yep.
So
it's really,
really close.
Right.
It's just a little bit heavy.
And then this is closed cell. And this was taken, I think this was back in winter. So it was a little bit on the heavy side. It was 2.04, and this was 2.1. And these are the same day. So this is
and they're supposed to be at 2.
Right. Yeah. So okay. It was varying between, I believe if I'm correct here, but it was varying between morning and afternoon. So as it started heating up, this is generally affected. So closed cell is a lot of things, or I guess both of them are a lot of things, but it's generally affected by temperatures.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're doing here. I generally do about maybe 1 or 2. Well, it just kind of varies as far as how many density checks we do in a day. But we like.
But you're still checking that consistency throughout the day, because for one, like you were saying, if you see that the product is going bad, the ratio's off, you know where it started going bad at.
Yeah,
but you're not
I
having to tear the whole house out.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
So
I always want to have a clean point.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Drew, you guys had sprayed this out on the ground before you got going. Why? What's the purpose behind that?
So there's a couple different purposes, but this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, and kind of small scale. But if you can you see the strings? Right. So that's generally hitting that cold foam. It could be, you know, a couple different things, but it's generally hitting that cold foam, and that's what I was telling you about earlier. When we cut passes out, you're checking cell structure as a whole. Like you're checking this right here. You want to make sure.
Is this good foam?
So yeah, it's cold foam.
Even that is.
Yeah, because here I'll show you back to this density check. So can you tell? Can you kind of tell the difference there?
Well, you can almost see that. I feel like this is more open.
Exactly.
Maybe than this is. So even though it's open cell, this is a little bit tighter than this one is.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for in that.
Right.
And when you spray this out on the ground before you get going, you're just trying to make sure it has warmed up enough and everything. Is that right?
Right. So we spray this until we get a good pass. And generally, well, a lot of times when we spray our first or second pass, you're just spraying the cold foam out of your line. So that's usually all it is. So that's what we're doing here, and we're spraying until we get a good pattern or a good pass on it. So awesome. Yes, sir.
So you can see there a few minutes ago that the cavities were, I'm going to say, boiled out, and they're going back and trimming them. I got a little bit of video of them actually filing it. What'd you call this guy?
So this is our turbo shreds. You know, we've had this probably for about a year. So we used to hand shave everything. And we've hand shaved some stuff in here too.
Which is what they're doing right now, right?
Right. So some areas are harder to get to, or where, you know, you have finished tile, we can't really shred down to the ground.
Yeah.
You know, hit the tile. But as you can see right here, see how this is a lot cleaner?
Yeah.
That was turbo shredded, yeah.
And what's our R value? This is open cell foam in a 4-inch cavity. What kind of R value are we seeing with this, Drew?
So we generally get on the material we're spraying now, we generally get about 3.8 R per inch.
Okay.
Spray. So you're looking at about an R, like a little bit over an R13 and a 3.5 inch cavity.
Okay. And so the R value is not necessarily super great, but the big thing we're looking at with this foam product is that our air sealing is
correct. Yeah.
Phenomenal, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I guess that's kind of old practice to go straight to R value, but you know, we're seeing nowadays that it's all about your air tightness, and how tight you can get the house, and how much your mechanical systems can, you know, how much they benefit off of that, and then, you know, it all plays a role in that.
Yeah. Well, and that's some of the stuff that there's going to be some more videos with you, Drew.
Yeah.
Because we got some more projects coming up, and not only that, but this has really piqued my interest of late. And Drew and I have had some conversation about our own house and some other projects that we've done and the differences that I've seen, but then also working with the heat and air companies to talk about how we can actually downsize the units because of the air tightness that this creates. So we've got a lot of really cool stuff coming up, and
Absolutely.
I know this is a real small job for you, Drew, but hopefully it's not driving you too crazy, and
right. Well,
we'll be able to get you back.
Yeah, this job is, you know, I guess scalable. So what we're doing here is, you know, it's just a small picture of what we do in a big house. So it's all the same. They're actually cleaning now. I didn't talk on this yet, but they'll also go back and caulk all these joints. They can foam windows, caulk the joints, caulk all your 90 speed, any tight framework. And then we generally, I'll have to look at it here, but we generally caulk bottom plates, but we always caulk the top plates.
Well, so we actually caulk these bottom plates as we put them in.
That's what I thought. That's why I said that.
The way it was recessed below the tile, we knew that was going to be a tough spot to hit.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we still, if you look at it and think that we should maybe caulk the actual seam right here,
yeah,
then that would be fine because we're going to cover it up with baseboard.
Right.
And we're going to cover that with some sort of trim. So, you know, that wouldn't be a big deal. And if you think that's advisable, we'll do it. Big thing here is that we needed to insulate this room somehow. And I really, you know, such a small space, batting these small cavities such as these just isn't really efficient.
No, it's not.
You know, not that a bat is super efficient in the first place, but they're really wanting to be able to use this room. This was a screened-in room that we've taken the screen out of and added these walls because they're just wanting to get a little bit more use out of it.
Right.
And part of my thought was that if we foam this, and they may be able to leave the house door open without really affecting the HVAC on the house,
Yeah,
just letting the air spill out here.
Right.
So I think this is going to wind up having it better than normal insulation. I think is really going to help them out a little bit on being able to use this room even more than they thought they would.
These small rooms, they're overlooked, but these are, you know, the ones that generally get super hot, especially all your windows. You know, you have tons of loss there if you're not, you know, air sealing them. And but yeah, you're absolutely doing it right here for sure.
Well, so guys, I hope you've enjoyed this, and like I say, we're going to have quite a bit more coming with Drew, hopefully in the next little bit, and we're going to be talking about HVAC systems and really incorporating these two things together just so that you get a little bit more knowledge on the choices you're making on your new home. So until then, we'll see you.